All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our March 26th formal session of the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners. I opened this at 10 a.m. and I'm going to ask that Carolina lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Before we get going into public comments, I just wanted to touch on something that happened a couple days ago. One of our planning commission members had a family member that passed away from a tragic accident. And I just want everybody to make sure that we have their thoughts and have prayers for them. As things kind of roll out and we get permission from the family, if they want us to give more details, we can, but I just want to mention that, and that the Gabler family, we're thinking about you and we're praying. So with that, I'm going to move on to our calendar session. Is there any changes to be made?
None.
That brings us to our public comment. I have 2 general public comment cards filled out. If there's any others, please raise your hand. And we do have a public hearing coming up. So if you're here to comment on the public hearing, fill out the green cards. If you're online, raise your virtual hand. With that, I'm going to ask 2 to come up at the same time. It is going to be James Goings and Charlie Rice. Good morning. Name and address from both of you, please.
My name is James Goings. I'm a resident of McMinnville. I live at 2126 Northwest Elm Street.
Charlie Rice.
I reside at 401 South Everest Road, number 36 in Newburgh.
I'll start. I'm here today on behalf of Chehalem Youth and Family Services, where I have served as board chair for just over a year. And I'm joined by Charlie Rice, our executive director, who has dedicated nearly 30 years to this organization. I will be offering brief comment and then invite Charlie Rice to provide additional comment. Chehalem Youth and Family Services served Yamhill County for more than 50 years, working with youth to help obtain their GEDs and high school diplomas while also supporting families in building strong and stable lives. Recently, I proposed a small personal funded incentive to recognize and encourage the young people who serve by taking them to a celebratory luncheon on their choosing. Importantly, this was not intended to use any organizational funds, but rather to give back in their personal way to the youth who are working hard to improve their futures. However, this year, our organization experienced significant reduction in grant funding. As a result, we were forced to close our McMinnville office and relocate to WorkSource, Oregon, and we have reduced our staff compensation. These changes have placed a strain on our ability to continue delivering the level of service our community has relied on for decades. We are committed to continuing important work, but we need your support to ensure that Chehalem Youth and Family Services can remain a strong and stable resource for youth and families in Yamhill County. I want to thank you for your time and consideration. I would like to invite Charlie to speak, and I won't be able to hear Charlie. I'm going in for spinal cord surgery at noon, and I love everybody here, and I got to go for a special spinal cord implantation for a wiring harness into my brainstem, and I got to leave. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, James. Bye.
Here.
Good morning, Chair Johnston, Commissioners King, Starrett. I am the Chehalem Youth and Family Services Executive Director. Chehalem Youth and Family Services, or CYFS for short, has been serving families and youth in Yamhill County since the 1970s. We started by providing residential treatment for youth. In 2010, we began providing youth workforce development for youth and young adults who live in Yamhill County. This was funded and still is through the Department of Labor by a grant that goes through the local workforce board in Salem, Willamette Workforce Partnership. In 2010, CYFS also began providing supervised parent visitation so that non-custodial parents could visit their children and thereby maintain those important family bonds. That service, Chehalem Parenting Connection, utilizes grants to provide a sliding fee scale for clients based on their financial needs. Our Youth Workforce Development Program, which we call YOUP, relies on grants provided through Willamette Workforce Partnership. Mr. Goins referred to a recent reduction of these funds in his remarks. We experienced a 29% reduction in these funds at the start of our current fiscal year, which began last July. In dollars, that was a reduction of $112,000. Our youth program has offices in McMinnville and in Newburgh. That makes it more convenient for our participants to receive services. We moved our office in McMinnville to the WorkSource Oregon building near Chemeketa Community College. This move was to free up funds that had been used for the lease and other expenses of our former McMinnville office. These savings allowed us to reinstate staff wages and a portion of the direct expenses for our participants. But we continue to seek funds through grants to overcome the deficit that I mentioned earlier. In conclusion, we plan to present our financial needs to the County Budget Committee next month. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. I formerly served on that board, and the last time I saw you, you were attempting to help us with a youth who was significantly challenged, just, to get his GED and driver's license and all that. Appreciate the work you've done. It's often thankless. You're working with a challenging population, but you've been so dedicated. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't know how much time I'm allowed. I would be happy to share a success story of one of our current participants, but I don't know what your agenda's like or what your time is like.
We have all day.
And I could save it for the Budget Committee next
That's an
month.
idea.
Okay, good.
Yep. Yeah, and you'll have 3 more ears to bend during Budget Committee, so that'd be great. Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, if there's anybody else, raise your hand or your virtual hand online. And if you showed up a little bit late, if you're here for the public hearing, make sure you fill out one of the green cards if you're here to give public comment. With that, we're going to move on to department updates from our sheriff's office. Welcome, Sheriff Elliott.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Good morning.
Good.
Uh,
Good morning.
Give me just a minute to get set up here, so. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you this morning about the Sheriff's Office. I know that you have a full agenda today, and I'm going to try to keep it relatively brief. In that, I'm not going to talk about some of the facets of the Sheriff's Office, emergency management in particular, as it is its own department per se under the Sheriff's Office. So we're not going to talk about emergency management at all today. I'm not going to talk to you about the radio system. Commissioner King has been a part of several of our meetings lately, and he can provide any additional information, or I can at another time, regarding some of the work that's being done on the county's public safety radio system. We have a dog control work session later, so I'm going to gloss over some of that and just limit it to general information about the Sheriff's Office. So over the past year, since the last time that I gave an update to you and spoke with you, one of the big initiatives that I really was focused on is trying to identify our mission, vision, and values for the Sheriff's Office. So I spent a lot of time researching and working on what I wanted the sheriff's office to reflect. And these are the new mission, vision, and values of the sheriff's office that we implemented earlier this year. I'm not going to sit here and read to you everything that's on the screen because you can see it for yourself. But this was a pretty significant undertaking for me personally, just because this is something that unifies the entire organization under a common purpose. So when I'm setting the mission and the vision of the office, it's something that really rallies everybody together, that we can see what our common purpose is together as an organization. There's a lot of different approaches. You see some agencies that have a mission or they have a vision statement that's multiple paragraphs long. There are things that really get into trying to cover all of the bases of what you do as an organization. But if it's not something that you can commit to memory and recite, easily, I think it gets lost. And so that's why these are simple. They're able to be put onto pocket-sized cards. We actually have some new challenge coins that reflect all of the 5 values of the organization. So we're putting it on materials in the office, making it visible and accessible to everybody. And so again, it was maybe took longer than it should have, but when I was really trying to bring my cohesive thoughts together on what the values of the organization should be. Again, you have agencies that, have many core values, some that have a few core values, trying to decide like what is the right amount. And honestly, the first 4 were really kind of easy. When I was looking at what are the values of the organization, integrity, respect, courage, and empathy. This is something that I put out to the entire staff and offered the opportunity for staff to weigh in and tell me, what do you think our values should be? What should be the focus of the organization? And those were relatively easy to come up with. And so I'm looking at it going, I've got 4, and that just doesn't seem quite right. I want to have 5 and make it something that, you can put on a circular challenge coin and have it all be even. And 5 just seemed like it was really the target that I was shooting for. And so I was really struggling to come up with what that 5th core value would be, and was looking at some of the work that we do and, what really resonates with the community and what generates a lot of the positive reinforcement in the form of letters and comments and emails that we get back. And I think truly what is embodied in the office of sheriff, and what is really something that is heavily instructed on and recited within the State Sheriff's Association, is kindness. That's what people remember about their contact with a deputy sheriff or with a sheriff, is that we do serve the community, and we reflect that office of sheriff no matter what county you're in across the state of Oregon. And so that's how I came up with the 5th core value of kindness. So any questions or comments on this slide? So talking about the organization itself, we're going to start with the jail. You can see, we are going to publish later today the annual report from calendar year 2025. That was something that last year we got back to creating and publishing. I brought that annual report to you during my department update last year. I'm not going to go through the entire report. It's like 38 pages long. So I just have a few snapshots from the annual report for us to talk about today. And that annual report does give the comparison of last year plus the 2 years prior. So you're getting kind of a 3-year look back. We're relatively consistent with our jail activity as far as the total number of bookings per year, as you can see from 2025 over the prior couple years. Our average daily population is 127 for last year, which is an increase of 11.4% from the prior year. We do have an increase of about 60% in our Senate Bill 1145 population. So those are the prison diversion candidates that are spending time in the county facility. Most notably, and as you'll recall from prior conversations with our expansion of our bed rentals with Washington County and the U.S. Marshals Service, Our average daily bed rental population is 21, which is a 50% increase over the year before and a 425% increase over 2023. Our average monthly bookings and our average monthly releases relatively constant over the prior year. Some of the things that we track, we have expanded the things that we're tracking in the facility, but it's important for us to know things that generate what we call an incident, something that gets tracked on paper, something that we're documenting, whether that be some sort of a misconduct, a rule violation, whether it's medical issues, suicide risk assessments. You can see in most categories, we are trending a little bit down. So we are seeing a decrease in a lot of the incidents, at least the reportable type incidents that we're having in the facility. And I will tell you that it is my belief that the reduction in a lot of the incidents that we're having is because of the introduction of the tablet technology. The enhancements in the communication ability for folks that are currently incarcerated to have regular text message conversations, video chat conversations with family members, with providers, to be able to have the opportunity to do educational programs. It is something that consumes some of their time. It's also something that allows them to have a little bit greater connection with the outside while they are incarcerated, that they don't lose that contact. It's much easier for family members to be able to do a text chat conversation or a video conference with their family member because it's not limited to the periods of time where we can accommodate physical people coming in and out of the visitation booths and moving the adults from their housing unit down to a visitation booth and then back. It has reduced the amount of movement and the staff time necessitated to accommodate that significantly. So the tablets are issued to every adult in custody that comes into the facility unless they engage in some sort of behavior or conduct like intentionally damaging it. They don't receive that back. But they get all of their mail through the tablet, so it goes to an offsite location where it gets scanned and uploaded and sent directly to them in the form of like an email, which is a great safety advantage for the facility because it cuts down on the contraband that gets mailed in. We don't get the paper that's been soaked in meth water. We don't get the acid tabs that are folded up into a small fold of paper. We don't get powder that is put into a book binding or a fold of a piece of paper. So there are significant safety advantages on the introduction of illicit contraband into the facility by having the mail scanned off-site and then sent in an electronic format through the tablet. We have seen those significant increases overall in our disciplinary issues as well as incidents of self-harm, suicide watches. We have a really, really great partnership with the staff from HHS that work in the facility that are there to meet the needs of the folks that are incarcerated, to meet with them sometimes multiple times a day. We see folks that have never been arrested before, that there's a lot of anxiety over that first experience. They're able to meet with those individuals. They're able to explain to them certain things that help put them at ease. And then the folks that we get in that do suffer from very significant mental illness, it is such a game changer to have those staff in there to meet with them and work with the prescribing physicians and identify what medication they were on, that they should be on, that we need to get restarted on, and help to stabilize them. I will point out the biggest incident that we have is maintenance issues. And that just is because of the aging facility. We are seeing increased use with the amount of bed rentals and with the amount of use of the facility and the way that the facility was constructed and laid out. That continues to be the predominant issue that we have is maintenance requests and maintenance issues in the facility.
How's the kitchen remodel coming?
Kitchen is looking so amazing. They are done with all of the rebuilding of the kitchen or the repair work that was done after the fire. There are just a very couple of small outstanding items like a soap dispenser being mounted back over a hand washing sink. Just a couple really small things, but the bulk majority of the work is done. They've moved back in. We're utilizing the kitchen for all the meal prep now. We're out of the temporary trailer. They just did spring break, so they weren't coming up to pick it up this week. So
So huge shout out to Willamina Customs for
absolutely.
letting us use their portable food trailer. That was a huge help.
Very much so. I plan to bring you something when we're all said and done in recognition of the support from Willamina School District and Willamina Customs to bring us that. It was immensely helpful, and they didn't charge us anything for the utilization of that mobile kitchen trailer. So, I know we will have our regularly scheduled inspection where you guys will come through. I'm really excited to show you the changes in the kitchen and what it looks like. It's so much brighter. We went with white FRP paneling on the walls. All the lighting is new. It is like a brand new facility. So, and the staff are so excited about the upgrades to the surfaces, for ease of cleaning and everything else. So.
Yep.
In terms of the insurance coverage for that, can you break that down for us? Were we out of pocket anything?
That would be a question for Kevin and Ken.
Okay,
Yeah, so we do have a deductible under that coverage, 10,000 is our deductible. So the remaining costs of the project to restore and repair, it's all covered by our property insurance.
okay, so that deductible is covered by our extra insurance. That did not come out of the sheriff's budget, that 10?
Correct. So we
The
carry
reinsurance.
funds. We
Or-
carry funds in the insurance reserve to cover deductibles. So we cover the first 10,000, and then our CIS would cover the remaining amount for that's covered.
Great, thank you.
On the subject of the jail, in February of 2025, our narcotics canine handler deputy, who is a patrol deputy, he took an opportunity with the Oregon State Police and moved on over to that agency. And so we had Rojo, who is our narcotics detection canine, that his handler was leaving the organization. Rojo's, I'm going to probably get this wrong, but I believe he's 9 years old. So he's getting a little up in years for doing patrol work where he's jumping in and out of the car multiple times a day. He still has, a strong desire to do what he does. And so we took that opportunity and paired Rojo with a new handler in the jail. So he was paired with Deputy Holverson. And we worked with Deputy Holverson and the rest of the folks in the region in the narcotics detection world and have utilized Rojo in the jail. So every jail in the state of Oregon deals with contraband, and there is always motive and incentive for people to try to bring controlled substances into the jail. It's worth a lot of money to have those substances in there, and it's dangerous for the population, and it's dangerous for staff to have those substances. So one of the things that we have done is expanded the use of the canine by having him housed in the jail. You can see some numbers up there. So Rojo's done a lot of work this past year, and he has done some work for patrol. We've had to call him out with the work of the street crimes and narcotics team to help support them, but he's also done a lot of sniffs in the jail. We've been asked and have provided some assistance also to the Federal Correctional Facility in Sheridan. They have a tremendous contraband problem. And so, he did 118 sniffs in the jail or in the prison facility out there. He had 4 alerts and 4 confirmed fines with that in the facility. And you can see the totals of grams of the various controlled substances that Rojo is responsible for finding. And that's a cumulative total of the work that he did out on the street as well as in the correctional facility.
Those are points, right? 18.9, 25.7.
Correct.
Okay.
So, he continues to be very successful. He's still showing 100% reliability with an alert and a confirmation of a find of controlled substance. So we're really pleased with the work that Rojo has done. Oh, it says right there, he's 10 years old on his little ID badge. So he's doing a great job, and it really has been advantageous to have him working in the jail and making sure that we are using every tool available to make sure that we don't get harmful substances into the facility.
What's retirement age for Rojo?
It really depends on the dog. It depends on health wise, how he's doing. If he identify, if he winds up with any hip problems, is struggling, to stay. He does get more tired now as he's gotten a little bit, if he works like a housing unit and is sniffing. I mean, that's his work, is working through there. He needs to take a nap afterwards, but
Yeah.
then he's good to go. So,
Good boy.
yep. So any questions about the jail before I move on to patrol? All right. Again, been pretty consistent, a little bit up in our total calls for service, but interestingly, a little bit down in the number of cases resulting in arrest. We're seeing that, not just with our organization, but we are seeing a lot of success with our deflection program. So, that does result in a call for service and a case being taken, but the whole entire intent of that program is to not have that be something that results in arrest and a conviction in the criminal justice system. So, that is one explanation for why you're seeing cases ending in arrest being down, is because of our deflection program that we're running here in the county. I always like to highlight, where the activity is taking place. So you see that we have a graph showing all of our calls for service, whether that be rural or that would be unincorporated in the county, as well as our contract cities. So the 5 cities that we serve as their police department, and then our non-contract cities, which would be those agencies that have their own police department. So you can see the pie chart breaking down, where the calls are being generated. As you would expect for a sheriff's office, the majority of our work is in the unincorporated parts of the county, but those contract cities that we serve, when you add them all up together, that is also a significant volume of our work. Total calls, we're seeing Amity and Dayton are pretty consistent. Dayton's up a little bit. Lafayette is up quite a bit, but Sheridan and Willamina are down slightly over the prior year. Our patrol canine program, I'm really excited about the fact that we were able to expand that this past year. So on the left there, you see Valkyrie. She's now 4 years old. You can see the numbers at the bottom. Valkyrie was deployed 127 times, and that resulted in 78 people being found and 67 arrests. She continues to be very high energy and is doing a great job for us. But not every deployment is because we're actually looking for a person. We utilize the dogs a lot for building searches on alarms, for article searches. It's not that every time the dog gets out, it's because it's chasing somebody or that there's some use of force involved. We were able to add another couple of dogs to our program. So you see on the right-hand side of the screen there that we have Koa and Delta. They actually are litter mates, so they're sisters. Both handlers, Deputy Baker and Deputy Bannister, have completed all of their training through the Oregon Police Canine Association. They are certified now in the state of Oregon. They're out working. I didn't get an opportunity. Both of them are working graveyard right now, but I believe that Deputy Baker and Delta had their first successful deployment over the weekend. An individual met up trying to sell a stolen ATV and decided that he didn't like the look of the buyer, who happened to be somebody from the sheriff's office. So he decided to run, and Delta found him, and he was taken into custody for having possession of that stolen ATV and trying to sell it. So it's really fun. I think that as far as we've been able to determine, we're the only agency in the entire state that has our complement of enforcement canines are all females. And the 2 sisters, Koa and Delta, They are very different personalities. So it's a lot of fun getting to know the new dogs and utilizing them as the force multiplier that they are. When we get an alarm at a rural structure, we can send 2 people up there to safely search instead of having to send everybody that we can find to have to cover every access point and every hidey hole. So the dogs are significant for us with the staffing that we have. I mentioned our street crimes and narcotics team that we started in 2025. That team originally was 3 members of the sheriff's office that we took folks from existing positions and repurposed them to try to address the significant issues that we continue to see regarding controlled substances. And really, if you went to the opioid summit or have been a part of any of the conversations surrounding deflection or the work that Director Manfred is doing at HHS, we know that we have a significant problem. If I'm recalling it correctly, in 2024, we had 17 fatal overdoses in the county. In 2025, just through the end of September, we had already had 20 fatal overdoses in the county. And that's just unacceptable to me, that we devote resources to a lot of other things and there was no dedicated drug enforcement happening in Yamhill County. And yet we know that we are losing family members every single year because of addiction. We will never arrest our way out of folks having substance use disorder, but certainly we can have an impact in trying to disrupt the flow of controlled substances into the county. So from the beginning of June of 2025 until March of 2026, we utilized the team. They had 70 cases total, resulted in 96 arrests and 14 direct pipelines of controlled substances coming from out of county into Yamhill County. We seized 351.7 grams of cocaine, 1,673 grams of fentanyl, 2,719 grams of methamphetamine, and then various dosage units of fentanyl pills, Suboxone strips, benzodiazepines, and Xanax. So they have been very, very successful. As you know, we did lose some grant funding through the Criminal Justice Commission last year that was awarded through the illegal marijuana program. That resulted in us having to take one of those 3 folks and move him back into the sheriff's office. But we are currently in a pilot program where we have a detective assigned to the team from the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Police Department. So we are still a team of 3, 2 being from the sheriff's office, 1 from Grand Ronde Tribal Police. That has been very beneficial for both organizations, and they are very appreciative of the efforts that the team is making in the Grand Ronde community. So we continue to look at ways to sustain this moving forward because, as I said, we took folks and repurposed them to do this work. It is very important work. I fully believe in what they're doing, and they will continue their efforts to try to interrupt that flow of controlled substances. And I do want to point out that when I'm talking about the emphasis and the work that they do, it is not on individuals that are suffering from substance use disorder out on the street. We are going after the dealers. We are going after the people that are making thousands and thousands of dollars by peddling harmful substances in the county. I touched a little bit on our behavioral health deflection. I mean, it goes hand in hand with the work that the SCAN team is doing. They do deflect a lot of people that they encounter in the course of their work. We've had 227 total referrals through March 23rd. 172 of them were found to be eligible to participate. We currently have 14 people still meaningfully engaged in treatment. We've had 9 successful completions of the program, and there's only 2 pathways for successful completion. One is 90 days of complete abstinence of use, proven through urinalysis, and the other is 6 months of continued engagement with the treatment provider. So when you talk about the impact, we continue to build on that. A lot of folks look at it and say, oh, only 9 people have been successful. We are one of the most successful programs in the state, and we have more deflections than Washington County with, 20% of the population. So,
And Clackamas County, correct?
and Clackamas County.
Yeah.
So Also wanted to touch just briefly on our DUI enforcement. We continue to have a big focus. There was the campaign this past year. I partnered with Public Health and created some media materials that went out on social media. There was some billboards that went up around the county, just trying to raise awareness and encourage people to make a plan and be smart about how they are going to consume any sort of intoxicant and then get behind the wheel of a motor vehicle. We had 202 DUI arrests as an agency last year. 186 of them were alcohol, 16 were drugs, and 38 of those incidents were the result of a crash. So we continue to see high levels of impaired driving resulting in crashes and also resulting in individuals getting apprehended.
What's the figure for how many times somebody drives impaired before they're actually caught?
Roughly 85, I think, is what NHTSA and Mothers Against Drunk Driving put out as the average individual drives impaired 85 times before they get caught.
Yeah.
Moving to our support services, this is where we're seeing one of the greatest increases in the demand for our service. We see continued increase in concealed handgun license applications and renewals. We see a lot of warrants coming down to be entered and maintained. Our phone calls are up significantly. Our evidence processing, it is down just a little bit, and that really just trends with what types of cases we have and how many pieces of evidence come. But, you know, when you look at the volume of work that's being done, you know, we have one full-time evidence person that is managing, you know, 7,000 pieces of evidence. And that's from when it comes in to, you know, logging it, taking stuff to the crime lab, picking it back up, making sure that the reports get to the district attorney so that we can successfully prosecute cases. The amount of digital evidence that we now create, every deputy is wearing a body camera, including in the jail. Just massive amounts of electronic media. We're able to receive electronic evidence from folks in the community. We can send them a link directly from our cell phone. They can upload their Ring camera footage. They can upload text messages or photographs. All of that digital content has to be managed. And so I'm sure you've heard from the DA about the amount of work that it takes to prepare a case when you have 3 deputies on scene for 2 hours. You know, that's taking and making 6 hours of body camera footage that has to be reviewed. So our civil process, we are seeing some increases, but what I just wanted to point out in the top right is in 2025, you can see that the gray column is new because we've begun tracking attempts. So when we go out to serve a civil paper, we obviously have been tracking forever the number of papers that we serve and the type of papers, but we were not tracking the number of attempts because, as you can imagine, not everybody's home the first time we go to the house, and sometimes people see us coming and they don't want to talk to us and they don't answer the door. And it takes a lot of time to make sure that we get, a lot of those are under timelines that are dictated that we have to get them served by. So there is a lot of work. We have one full-time person that's all he does is serve civil papers, but he gets a lot of support from the patrol division. I myself go out and serve civil papers when I see the boxes getting full, because it's one of the required functions of a sheriff in the state of Oregon is to serve civil papers. So when I see papers that are starting to overflow, I'll grab a handful and go serve them when I'm driving home from work for the day. So we have some new programs before I get into our volunteer stuff that we have had to transition to in our support services primarily. So we transitioned fully over to LEDS 2020. That's the information with the state of Oregon on criminal records and how we track missing persons, stolen property, stolen vehicles. So that is something that the state required. We launched our new evidence software, Evidence on Cue. That is a product that the city of McMinnville and the city of Newburgh have been using for a while. It's a product that allows the district attorney's office to log into a portal and they can see all the items of evidence in a particular case. So by us moving to this, they are able to log in and see evidence without us having to continuously produce a new evidence sheet and send to them on cases that they have in their office. We're currently working with County IT, who has been just immensely supportive and helpful in developing a new civil processing and tracking system. So all those papers that come in, the deputies, when they serve them, will be able to enter that right from their computer. It'll generate the return that goes back, the proof of service. It'll just really help with efficiency to where every paper doesn't have to get touched like 3 times, because it comes in, gets prepared for service, the deputy takes it out, serves it, brings it back with the notes on it. Then they have to prepare the return of service to send back to wherever requested that service from. So just trying to build in some efficiency, and we are still on track to deploy our records management software in 2026, and that's that joint venture with Wycom and the city of McMinnville. We did deploy in January of 2025. We upgraded to the newest version of the Axon body-worn camera. We deployed our Lexipol policy in April of 2025, so that's our entire office policy manual. And we also moved to an online training platform called Police One and Corrections One. So this is a platform that we can assign various types of training to our staff so that they can meet their requirements from the state of Oregon, but also get up-to-date training that's produced in a very high-quality manner that you see a lot of the trends from across the country, especially when you're talking about some of the liabilities in like correctional environments and some of the trends. So that has allowed us to create training opportunity that people can do on duty on the regular shift. We're not requiring them to come in on a day off or to stay late to accomplish training. So they have access to that at all times. Current staffing, we hired 6 new patrol deputies in 2025. 2 of those were folks that transferred down from the jail. We currently do have 1 vacancy in patrol, but we are holding that vacancy for the time being until we work through the budget process. We have 3 reserve deputies that we onboarded in 2025, and we actually have onboarded another 3 so far in 2026. And we have 1 more who are almost done with his background. So we have been adding significantly to our reserve deputy pool. We did create and assign 2 individuals to serve as corporals in the corrections facility. This is to help with evening out supervision across the 4 teams. So we have a sergeant and a corporal assigned to each team so that they can help with overall supervision. We did hire 3 new deputies in the jail, and we currently have 2 vacancies with folks in backgrounds that we're looking to fill to make sure that we are completely full in the jail. We did hire 2 additional folks, well, not additional, but replaced 2 folks in our support services division in 2025. And we currently do have 2 vacancies in that division. Unfortunately, one of them being due to the passing of Carrie Hogeville. So we have folks in backgrounds that we're looking to hire and fill those positions. So volunteers, I just put this up here to highlight again how significantly we are supported by the various volunteer units that we have within the sheriff's office. So we do have some admin volunteers. Typically those are college students that are doing some sort of an internship. We currently have an intern from George Fox, Emily Adams, who has just been great to work with. We have an intern that will be starting this summer who is actually a college student from out of state, but he's from here in Yamhill County. So we're going to give him an internship opportunity for the summer. Our areas are amateur radio emergency service folks, cadets, CERT, community emergency response team. Our jail programs, that includes all of the religious studies, the family supports that happen in the facility. Our mounted posse, always leading the parades and representing, doing a great job. Search and rescue, which you can see we're up pretty significantly. We're getting ready to start our search and rescue academy for the year. And then our VRU, our volunteer response unit. You add up all of their hours, and the county is receiving, according to what the independent sector would put as a dollar amount for an hour of volunteer service, $800 and almost $21,000 worth of volunteer service that we're benefiting from, which is just huge. We could not do it without our volunteers. You see them at the fair, you see them at some of the big events, helping to support the county and the sheriff's office. And I just can't thank them enough for their volunteer service. So as I mentioned, we continue to expand our reserve deputies. So in our annual savings of the work that we're utilizing them for. I just expect that to continue to grow and grow and grow. 315 hours of service from reserve deputies last year, and I expect that that will be significantly higher in 2026 as we continue to onboard additional folks. That's for the next section. So I will leave you with that we have our annual volunteer recognition banquet is scheduled for April 23rd of this year. We are going to be doing that out at the community room at FCI in Sheridan. So that is going to be during National Volunteers Appreciation Week that we are recognizing all our volunteers. We are going to have that event. We just got confirmation it will be catered by Summit Correctional Services, which is our food service provider in the jail. They have supported us with National Police Week, National Corrections Week. And so we've partnered with them to support us in our volunteer appreciation. So they're going to cater the food for that event. And we'll be giving out some awards for some of our volunteers that put in exceptional hours and also got some recognition for their lifetime achievement in the volunteer service that they do. So I will end it there, but for any questions that you might have.
Well, you're always a credit to you personally, and your team are a credit to our county. So thank you for all you do. A lot of sacrifices there, and the wives and the families.
Yes, thank you.
It's always nice to see the cadets and also the patrolmen come in city council meetings, giving updates personally for all the cities that we serve. And I can tell you that those city council members and mayors like hearing from them. So it's great that we have that personal touch. So it definitely represents the sheriff's office very well.
I appreciated your first slide with, your values and your mission. And I see that in the community. And I would say the same thing, that every single one of those that you guys do, excellent. So well done putting that together. And I think just under your leadership, the sheriff's office is doing fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I wouldn't move too far unless 5-minute break. Okay. Okay, all right. We're back and we are on to our work session now, and we're going to kick it off with dog control. Welcome back, Sheriff.
Yeah, and so this is actually going to be kind of joint between the sheriff and I, because we've had several work sessions about dog control. We've also had extensive discussions during last year's budget committee week. And without doing too much of a look back, because I didn't prepare a lot of materials, because I think basically we've had several discussions and it's not really intended to be a look back, but essentially to just say that we tried a program for quite some time. We amended the ordinance and we tried to kind of outsource dog control to a certain degree, and I think there's generally agreement that that's not working, and the sustainability of that, especially around the funding, has also created some challenges. So the sheriff and I have had several discussions, and and we prepared a proposed budget based on what we're looking to get consensus from the board from. To have discussions next month once we get to budget committee. But based on the previous discussions that we've had with the board, is approaching the angle of what it would look like to bring dog control back in-house, have a staff person, essentially a dog control officer, plus some part-time support staff, to then really start focusing on licensing, and all other functions with dog control within the community. So the proposal does not include kennel, or building a kennel or anything along those lines. It's still, we're still going to rely on those contracted relationships that we have for kenneling in particular, but then that's something that's probably long-term discussions, but trying to identify funding sources, and anything that we're probably looking at, we probably wouldn't be able to stand up until July anyways, with the adoption of with the new budget. So right now, like I said before, staffing, what we're currently looking at and what we've prepared as far as the budget, what you'll see as a proposed budget next month, the budget committee includes one full-time dog control officer. And then we have funds identified for extra help. We haven't actually built a position, but we think there's sufficient funds for possibly a half-time clerical support to help with day-to-day, and the sheriff and I are still talking about licensing models, because, about where you go to pay for your license and what that might look like. There's details still to be worked out on those elements. And if we start going this direction, there's going to be a couple things at play. One, there's going to be the budgetary discussion that's going to happen with budget committee. The second part is we need to start the process of amending the dog control ordinance to reflect bringing this program back in-house. When we went the other direction with the other program, you may recall we did a pretty comprehensive amendment to the dog control to facilitate that. And so we're going to have to undo that and hopefully make some improvements to the ordinance. So I do look at there's going to be some costs associated with that as well, in working with county counsel's office to start doing that review. So I don't know. There's my quick 5 minutes, and Sheriff, if I missed anything or.
Yeah, so as Ken mentioned, I mean, we've had a couple of meetings and are trying to formulate, what is the appropriate response to the community needs and the concerns that have been raised. I will share that final slide with you here briefly, just because I know when I was in front of you in some of the prior dog control discussions, particularly when we were revamping the code, and we were having some discussion about the fee structure and whether those would be amended or adjusted. One of the biggest questions that we always get or look at is what is what is happening with licensing, particularly the compliance rate that we have. And you've heard me say many times that, you know, our licensing compliance across the county is relatively poor. So you can see kind of our look back. When I look at, this is in our annual report, the total number of dogs licensed, we are up. And that was one of the goals that I had from our meetings, was to try to get licensing up. We worked just in-house with some of our folks, Carol Ann Van Wert in particular, but she helped us create at least a mechanism for people to license online, that they don't have to physically go into an office somewhere. It is a little bit challenging on the finance side of trying to reconcile, you know, on what date and did they pay the appropriate amount. There have been some challenges on the backside. I know Mike and Tara and Jackie have worked through trying to identify efficiencies with online licensing. But overall, we are seeing our licensing compliance start to trend up. We do still have a significant amount of issues across the county. And with the current model being decentralized, the city of Newburgh has their own program that they're running. The city of McMinnville has their own program that they're running. We're doing our thing in the unincorporated and the 5 cities that we serve. You have some small cities with their own police departments. But I can tell you that the enforcement side of particularly licensing is very inconsistent across all of those jurisdictions. So the current fiscal year that we are in, and you know, you guys know this better than anybody, when we were going through the budget committee last year, we are still under contract with Homeward Bound for our licensing and clerical. That contract expires at the end of this current fiscal year, so the end of June. So, you know, I would be looking for some direction with respect to notifications or renewals, or whatever direction we're going to go. And then our sheriff's office or county kenneling contract with Newburgh is also up at the end of this fiscal year in June. So depending on the direction that we move in, if we're bringing things back into more of a centralized model, I will tell you that I've had some preliminary discussions with all of the chiefs. I think it would be safe to say that they are all highly in favor of handing off responsibility of dog control back to the county. What that means in the long term, or with any sort of a partnership arrangement, you know, they do stand to have some significant savings with not having all of the responsibility that they currently have. They also understand that they would lose the revenue sharing that currently exists under the ordinance model, where if a dog gets licensed in the city of McMinnville, the city is getting 75% of that license revenue, and the county's retaining 25% for the overhead of the licensing program. They understand that if licensing comes completely back to the county, that revenue sharing will not take place. And, you know, in so many words, they all say, are we ready to sign today? So I do think that there is support from those partners. What that looks like from a budgetary perspective and from an administrative perspective of, you know, what is the number of kennels that would be needed if we're picking up dogs in all jurisdictions across the county? What does that look like for us? What does it look like for the personnel needed to adequately manage the licensing and clerical? Do we look at a different like software platform that has a online licensing component to it, where it's all integrated versus having kind of the traditional old school in-person, provide your certificate of rabies vaccination and write a check? Or do you have a virtual platform? Because you can renew and get a concealed handgun license by submitting all of your documents through the portal and getting it. You just have to come in for your photograph and fingerprints. You know, I'm confident is a way that you can upload your certificate of rabies vaccination and all the information and do an online dog license. So just a lot of discussions I think that we need to have as we look to the next budget year.
And we don't have to reinvent that wheel, because Deschutes County has DocuPet. So I know the technology's out there,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to let us cut and paste what they have.
Because honestly, I mean, the licensing revenue is it is a huge component to this, because if you look at the historic data, the dog control program was pretty close to self-sufficient just on licensing revenue.
Yeah.
And what you're going to see coming forward is part of the budget process, because it's not realistic that we're going to come year one and see licensing revenue, because we'll see an increase in compliance that licensing revenue is going to be able to fully support, so we are, the board had already approved an allocation of some general fund to go into this. And then I have a further proposal of economic development funds to also basically act as seed money or one-time funding. And I believe in preparing the budget for next year that not only does it have sufficient funds for the personnel, but also some of the startup costs for the programs and being able to cover some of the kenneling as well. But there's more details that we're going to have to work out between now and implementation, and then also as we actually are bringing it back in-house.
I just want to say, having watched this from 12 years ago when we had it in-house, and we did have inmate AIC labor, and we did have volunteers, and we did have that cost covered. Watching the whole iteration, I'm very proud of not only past boards, but the sheriff's office for being able to pivot with the economic reality, and to do this without a bond, to do this without a levy, and to do this without taxing people further. So I appreciate the fact that we're continuing on that trajectory, and the fact that your office has maintained this and taken it on despite some very significant challenges. So once again, appreciate that. And we have been able to do this without an additional tax burden to the constituents, which I know now, for instance, in Polk County, they just built a facility, a prefab thing, but to do something like that, not only is it expensive, but we're also putting another tax burden on people. And I appreciate the fact that we found a way not to do that.
How much seed money are you thinking we would need for that first year out of economic development?
Well, right now I have built in as proposed, it's 130,000.
And I know we talked about this, other pots of money other than economic development, ONC or landfill. I don't know how much either of those ones have.
There's funds available. That's why, when we get into the budget discussion next month, if there's concerns about using economic development and wanting to look at ONC or landfill license reserve or some of those other more discretionary type funds, or even a discussion around general fund, that's available for discussion. But, again, it was kind of hard. I had to kind of take a leap and just kind of look at programs, looking at ending balances and funds that are available. And, because of course I'm still putting together the proposed budget right now. And so I identified those funds in order to kind of stand up a mock program, what it would look like, or at least the funding portion of it.
Sure.
Yep.
So for the current year that we're in, we knew, based off of the budget that was built, that we had some contractual obligations for this year. As I mentioned, we're currently under contract with Homeward Bound. We're under contract with Newburgh Animal Shelter. That we have a deficit in what the costs for this current year are and what we had projected for revenue. While I can say that we are on track to exceed our revenue projections for the year because of licensing compliance, it is not anywhere close to what is going to bridge the gap for the remainder of the year. And so in addition to those known shortages that we have for this year, for paying those, we had a very significant expense based off of a criminal case in August of 2025. So right after the beginning of the new fiscal year, we had a case where we wound up with, ultimately it was 11 dogs because we took, I want to say it was 7 dogs in for emergency shelter and placement as a result of an animal neglect case. One of those dogs had puppies while it was kenneled. This was a kenneling provider that we went to kind of under an emergency because they had the capacity in the room to take them. But to boil down, that one case itself, we had a couple of months that we had those dogs kenneled that we paid for out of the sheriff's office to kennel them. and it was over $50,000 for that one case. And that far exceeds what I have budgeted for investigations, for costs for investigations. So we do have some issues in the current year that I believe that we need to address, particularly for dog control. We have some known shortages in completing the remainder of the year with our obligations with Homeward Bound and Newburgh Animal Shelter. I think Ken has some suggestions or some discussion about how to address that. And then, as we get further into the budget process and have more detailed discussions about what would a county centralized dog control model look like, I'll probably be back in front of you with some discussions that we're going to continue to have when you start talking about hiring FTE and where are those people housed and under what department are they going to exist. And so it is exciting to see some progress towards trying to be responsive to the concerns and the complaints that we hear. And I do believe that there is tremendous value in having a couple of folks that are more aware and able to track the issues that are going on across the county versus we're doing one thing, Newburgh's doing one thing, McMinnville's doing one thing, and we're not consistent in our approach to those ordinance violations, whether it be licensing, dog at large, dogs, chasing and attacking other animals, people. There's a lot to be considered. I've had one very, very, very good and informative meeting with somebody that works for a neighboring county's animal services, a larger county to our north. Got some great perspectives about how they're addressing it in, a very highly densely populated area. So I have some good takeaways from that meeting that I can bring into our discussions about, how are we going to make this not just something that exists, but something that is successful.
Yeah, so I think as far as, what we were kind of hoping for today is whether or not if there's consensus or questions or things, if we're heading the right direction, if this is what the board is wanting to see as far as a plan moving forward, as far as bringing this in-house and doing this work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. I've been fairly consistent with this message. This has been a mess for years and years. We slowly depleted our endowment funds, and this goes to lack of marketing, lack of efficiency. There's software out there that we can use, that we can do outreach with to get these numbers back up. If you go 10 years ago on what our licensing revenue was, we should be way more than that. So I know it's out there. We just need to get it implemented and done. And like I said last time, I'm committed to there needs to be one person that is in charge of this at a bare minimum, one person that's in charge of this to do licensing outreach and make sure that that number gets built back up. Because that's the key factor to this. I think we went from $30,000 last year to 60 this year on licensing income.
Right.
And then 10 years ago, we were over 300 grand.
Correct.
So we have a long ways to go, but I think when we bring this in-house, we have the one person dedicated to it. We have the technology there to where people on their phone can license their dog. And then the marketing is going to be huge on this. And I think we can do the marketing pretty efficiently at all of the vet clinics where all of the rabies shots need to be done, and just do a nice marketing campaign, do it on social media and on site at the vet clinics. And then the one last thing I want to touch on, and this is just interesting that came down yesterday, but there's a vet clinic that the guy retired yesterday at, and I had a realtor reach out to me, and the city of Sheridan possibly wants to see if there's not a combination between county and Sheridan to use that as a kennel out there at the old vet office that was that the guy retired from. So I'm going to go see that on Friday afternoon and just kind of start conversations there and see what they're looking for. But there's options, but I think the main thing is one dedicated person for sure, software efficiencies, and the marketing on this. And I think we can get there. So
The other thing is these investigations, I don't think people understand when you talk about that over $50,000, when there is a significant, whether it's neglect or abuse or dog bite or whatever, then we are tasked while the investigation is going on with taking care of these animals. And when the DA decides not to prosecute for whatever reason, we're still paying a bill that won't get repaid. And so I think we have to also factor in that these are devastating to a budget. You have no control over that. It's a lot of times we have to understand is that people are not good stewards of their animals, and maybe we get more of that message out there as well.
Agreed.
And I think one other thing that I've heard the chair say a couple of years ago, I think it is now, but just the fee, right? The fee was stagnant for a very long time. And I think that in order to bring this up, we do need to make that a little bit more of a market rate. I don't know what the surrounding counties charge.
We actually did, when we had that conversation, we adjusted them to be pretty close to our surrounding areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cleaned it up a little bit. There's some confusion.
Yeah, there was a 3-year, a 5-year,
Yeah.
I agree with you on this should be very easy on your phone. Should be idiot proof almost. I think things get easy to get mixed up, but I think that we do need to bring this in-house. I would love to hear more about what you see in Sheridan. Because I think these are really good options. I think we've spent a lot of money on nothing in the last 10 years. And to most of us, that none of past decisions have been made. And so I think we're tasked now at this point with cleaning it up. So thank you for both of you guys for putting the extra work into this.
I don't think we've spent money on nothing. I think our kennel partners and our sheriff's office has done a wonderful job with the money that they had.
I think our kennel partners, when they go from $300,000 down to $60,000, that's doing that. The partners there, we're not maintaining that. So
I'm not sure I'm following, but
Yeah, I'm not
okay.
either. Yeah.
Anyway.
We do
Shoot.
appreciate our kennel partners. Newburgh has stepped up, and I know they've dropped the rates for us to make it more reasonable. So we do appreciate what they do for us.
So I know there's going to be a lot of moving pieces with this. So based on the consensus, so we'll continue to work. There's going to be some things running in parallel. We'll have the budgetary process. So there'll be more discussion, and we'll get more into the details where you can see the numbers as part of the budget process. But then the second part is I'll start the conversation with county counsel's office, and we'll take a look at the code and getting those code amendments and revision, that we need to make to have it reflect that we're bringing it in-house and this is the path going forward. The third part, which there's kind of a third element, which the sheriff mentioned as well, is about the budgetary impact for this current fiscal year. And the one thing that I just wanted to remind is, as part of the budget adoption process last year, we did identify, I believe it was $102,000 of general fund money that is in the discretionary fund that's fully allocated, but it's in the discretionary fund. It wasn't distributed out to dog control. I don't know if that's enough to cover or what that total amount is, but if there's interest from the board to go ahead and take those funds, even though we're not, the intent was to do what we're doing here to stand up, but we do have, it's taken time to get to this point, and we've been incurring costs there. And I believe the budget can handle it. If there's consensus, I could prepare the necessary paperwork and come back before the board to make a transfer to dog control to help cover those costs.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
agreed. Thank
Okay.
you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sheriff.
Sheriff. All right. Our next work session is going to be transit, and we're joined by Cynthia Thompson. Good morning, Cynthia.
Good morning.
Good morning. Minute to get this set up and see if it's working right.
And I guess while Cynthia's setting that up, and before we jump into the work session, the one thing I did want to kind of highlight and say thank you and recognize that Cynthia, if Cynthia's retiring
Thank you.
next week, and she's done an outstanding job for us for so many years now. And I know before we jump into this later discussion, I just kind of wanted to take advantage of the 5 minutes while you're setting up to just recognize all the work that Cynthia has done with our transit system over the years.
both as a contractor and as our in-house manager for that program. It's, I can speak for myself, just the time that I've seen with the transit system, it's night and day.
Oh, yeah. You could see it in public too, that all of a sudden one day you're like, oh, we have a transit system. Before it started, a few white buses running around, then all of a sudden, there it was. It was the Yamaha County Transit System with the purple and the green and.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just want to, again, say thank you, Cynthia, for all your efforts and hard work. And I know she's agreed to stick around, even though she's retiring. She's going to help us out while we still get through the recruitment process for her successor, not a replacement. I don't think you can replace Cynthia.
Yeah.
But kudos and thank you.
Thanks
Yes.
very much.
When you took over, Cynthia, you had quite a bit of cleanup to do. So thank you for getting us on track and being such a great advocate for transit.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So let me just get this so I can.
If we're filling time, I'll back up what Commissioner Johnston said. It's, I've only worked with you for about a year now, but really over the past 7 or 8, I've seen, you could see the very big change, just as somebody who's paying attention in community about, where buses are at and where people are standing, waiting, and those types of things. So thank you for everything that you've done. And our transit system is night and day different and wouldn't be what it is today without your leadership. So thank you.
I appreciate that very much. It's really, I never imagined when I got here that it was supposed to be like a 3-month project, and then it turned into a 6-month project, and then it turned into a 2-year and then a 5. And I think now I've been in Yamaha County longer than anywhere else. And so in my 35 years of doing this, I thought Wilsonville was about 11 if you combine both times that I was there, but here are 10, I think it was. So here is the longest. Now how do I promote this on here? Let's see. What did I do? Okay, thank you. All right. Well, good morning, Commissioner Johnston. Good morning, commissioners and everyone else who's here today or online. I shared this quote a long time ago, I think in 2022, one time when I was giving an update, but I thought it was appropriate for today because I feel like when I was preparing this presentation, I'm looking back over the years and I'm think, well, we really did have planted a tree. We have planted the seed, we've made investments. I shouldn't say we, because you've made all the decisions all along the way. And I think the tree is maturing. It's not fully matured, but it's getting there and it's providing shade. And I think it will provide a lot more shade over time and it'll be an improvement for quality of life for many, many people. And I think it's something that we should all be proud of, really. Everybody who's been involved, and it's definitely taken a lot of people. It's not my show. Let's put it that way. Now do I hit just enter or didn't it work? Spacebar? Sorry. Usually this is, maybe I have that on there. So what did you do? Just this one?
You should just have to do space.
Okay. If I want to go back. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. So we're going to get started. So I decided when we met last time, I wanted to give kind of I always say this, it's like the high level 30,000 foot view. I do have lots of presentations with lots of charts and graphs and all those numbers. And if you want to see any of them, in fact, I'm going to put them all in a packet. So some of the things we're going to talk about today, you can dive deep and go and see all the numbers. But today we're going to kind of talk about the state of the system and kind of over the past decade, we've kind of, like you said, it's undergone a significant transformation. Yamaha County Transit secured over $41 million in federal and state funding. We invested in buses, technology, facilities, infrastructure across the county. It's a $50 million total counting. The county has contributed over the last 10, 11 years about $5 million. The rest of the local cities and fairs and other income is around 4 million. So grand total, it's about 50 million over the course of since 2015. However, we are now at a critical point where we have rising costs, we have limited funding, and it's going to and then we have to make some pretty important decisions about, you're going to have to make some pretty important decisions about that focus on long-term sustainability for the system. So today I'm going to do an overview of the system, like I said, at a high level, kind of what are some of the major projects that we've completed or are near completion, look at some of the financial trends and the cost pressures that we're facing, discussion, some service adjustment that I think are going to be required to do, and some key decisions for 2026 and beyond. And I hope that this briefing will be helpful as you, make some of these decisions in the future. I'm going to just do this for I know you know this information, but maybe for the benefit of those who are not as familiar with about our system, I'll do a very quickly overview of our system. We have 10 cities. We connect to Salem, we connect to TriMet, and you can also get all the way to the coast. So we make connections broad, far reaching. You can get to the airport, you can get to Hillsborough, you can get, we reach out pretty far. People can get to both the Salem metropolitan area and the Portland metropolitan area. There are 4 county employees, including myself. We have a contract with First Transit now called TransDev, and they employ between 30, 35 people. We have 30 buses. Sometimes we'll have one that's ready for disposal, so it might be range between 30, 32 buses, but that's the fleet. We offer local fixed route McMinnville. We have 4 commuter routes, 4 local routes. We have demand response that's both paratransit, which is one that's in McMinnville only, and that's for elderly and disabled, and they have to be certified. And then we have general public dial ride for anyone who can call. Currently, we're fareless, and we will touch on that a little bit later. The operating budget has pretty much been the last several years between about $4 and $5 million operating, not including capital. Capital depends on if we're getting grants for buses or other things. It's ranged anywhere between $500,000 a year to this year we're in, which is the largest budget we'd ever had because we had the 5 buses. So that was a $3.5 million for capital. We're primarily funded 80% with federal and state money and about 20% with county and local money. And over the last decade, a little bit more, so I really went back and looked at all the numbers from 2015 on. And really, I've always said I thought it was 50 million, but I went and actually looked at all of it. That it actually is 41 million from the grants and the rest from the others. So this has been a multi-year investment, and you've invested in fleet modernization, technology deployment, bus stop infrastructure, customer amenities, facility improvements, and also getting into compliance. Because like you said, when I arrived, not in compliance at all with anything. And so now that compliance includes, all these plans that you have to create every 2 to 3 years, ADA plan, civil rights plan, on and on. But I want to say that, I can go into all these numbers and talk about this till forever, but really it is about the people. And I don't want us to forget about that. I'm going to talk about some of these projects and you can say, oh, cool, you got a bunch of technology or you did this or that. The reality is, what does that look like to the regular person? And imagine like there's a person in Newburgh who can now go out, look on their phone, see when the bus is coming, walk out to an actual bus stop sign, stand there, and the bus will come, and she can actually watch it on her thing and know that it'll be there at a certain time. The person can board, they can push the button on their MDT, and they can count who the person is, they can take what type of rider that is. the person can sit down, they can watch the little screen that goes across the top that tells them what the next stop is, and then it announces the next stop automatically. So all the things you see in this slide, we have all of these things, except I think the only two missing is we didn't go with automatic passenger counters, and we don't have traffic signal priority. And we even have engine monitoring and driver monitoring, but that's owned by TransDev, so they handle that part. Everything else, we don't have fancy fare boxes. We have a very basic fare box. But we soon will have, you can purchase your ticket on your phone. So that will be happening in the very near future. And the benefits for this, it's like I said, it's obviously beneficial for the drivers, it's beneficial for the riders. It improves our operational visibility. It's real-time just information for dispatch. It's efficiency. It's a lot of things play into this, and a lot of it is unseen behind the scenes. And there's not that there's not challenges with all of these things as well. I mean, it has been. I think we wrote the grant for all the technology, mobile radios, cameras, surveillance cameras, all of those things. I went back and looked. I think it was 2018 or 17 maybe. And it literally has taken us till now to where I feel like it's there. We've got the info. Now we're getting down to the hands-on training, step-by-step training. Not that we don't have training, but improving the training. So things are going well. Even the demand response technology, we have mobile data terminals on all those vehicles, real-time tracking. All of this is just, doesn't mean anything to you, but what it means to like a customer that uses our Dial-A-Ride is they can make a phone call, they can get better information, they can know that they're going to get picked up at a certain time, they can get the ride to their doctor or to their friends or to a meeting or whatever. And that's what it really is about. And it does help with efficient scheduling. It improves our on-time performance. It helps with coordination between drivers and dispatchers. And the reason that I even wrote the grant originally was for the data, because the goal and the vision was get this data, make collecting the data simple. It's all there, and then it can help us with all these reports. Yamhill County Transit has to submit 15 to 20 reports annually. Some are pretty intense, some are not so intense. So that was the whole kind of the vision for it when it originally came out. I can't say that, well, it's happening, but was much slower than I ever envisioned. Bus stop project, you've heard me whine and moan and talk about this in more times than you want to know, but I do want you to know I have a really good in-depth slide presentation about this project. And there is a spreadsheet that I don't even think you want to look at because it's so detailed and has every little thing you'd ever want to know. GPS locations, everything, the permit number, you name it, it's got it. We had to do drawings for how the designs, everything. I didn't want to bore everybody with all of that, but it's been an 8-year effort and it's complete. I mean, all the signs that we're going to put up there's a few left that just have some challenges that are going to have to happen later, but basically it is up and it's significantly improving visibility. I think accessibility for riders. I think it's the largest, it's weird for me to say this, but the largest infrastructure project for Yamhill County. You don't really think of it as infrastructure, but really, what is the infrastructure for a bus system? It's a bus stop sign. We haven't had it. People have had to go out there since when I got here, you just went out and guessed. You'd have to know I'm going to ride the bus, go talk to somebody, hey, where do I catch it? And they're going to have to tell you, or we used to do, you could flag the bus down if you were in town, right?
The portable ones did quite well for
Yeah.
a year and a half.
I'm actually amazed that it worked as well as it
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge when I first got here was that the drivers would not all stop at the same place. And there was a lot of debate about where's the stop? And, and even once it was all online, you have all that still. So now you've branded signs, you have stop ID numbers, you have, we had to work with 10 cities, 18 permitting jurisdictions. And then I do want to just touch on this briefly, but why do they matter? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, but they really are so important on many levels. They are the gateway to transit. You now know where you can catch the bus. It does help market the system because oh, I didn't know there was a bus here. Now I can catch a bus over here. It helps with our operational efficiency, safety, and it's just something that you wouldn't think would be as difficult as it has been. But agencies don't have full control over a stop location. There's lots of people involved. You have landowners, you have the state, you have the 10 cities, you have other transit districts, you have developments, and so on and so forth. So that it can be very complicated, and it's subject to various local, federal, state regulations. And a lot of the regulations are not very clear. They're like, go talk to your transit agency. And then everybody has a different opinion about what you should do or what you shouldn't do. This was a slide that one of our consultants created when we did a presentation on this at the Oregon Transit Association conference. And I'm not going to go through it all, but just so you can kind of see, all of this has been done. We did a stop analysis, figuring out, every little detail that I didn't even know you could want to know that much about a stop, but we have an inventory, we have an identification system, we have a assessment of every single stop, whether how accessible it is or inaccessible it is, then all the permit applications. And then the biggest challenge really, I think, was staff changes. We had everywhere, every jurisdiction. When we first started, we had a comprehensive list. We invited everybody. In fact, a little story that shares, it's kind of funny, but when we first started, we got everybody involved. If they had a public works director, if they had a city manager, anybody who we thought would be involved in it, we brought everybody together. Of course, we didn't know it was going to take 4 years. And so we did keep going back and back, but when we put the signs up in Willamina, and I think this is kind of funny because one of our committee members, Craig, he's probably the most, well, he's always giving updates about transit at his city council, but they got a new city manager, I think, and a new staff person. So they were out putting in the sign and they're like, no, you can't put the sign in, stop. You have to get permits. We're like, it's on an ODOT highway. So we had an ODOT permit and we had talked to them, but it had probably been a while. So I did realize I should have sent a letter out when we were actually right before we rolled everything out to remind, because people change. And so I do think that a lot of the issues were that issue. You'd have to start over. You'd make progress. In fact, one time we were so close, we couldn't get them to ODOT to approve the semi seats, which is the little seats that are attached to the poles. And then we finally got there, and then the person's like, oh, I got a new job. I'm going to go over here and work in this department. Next thing you know, new person, they didn't agree with anything. So you'd have to tell your story. So there's a lot of history. If you want to go research everything you ever wanted to know about regulations and what is actually there and what is actually not there, we've got it. We got a database. We got so much information that
I will never forget the email that you sent to me, and you explained that whole thing. You're like, I think it just fast forward my retirement. I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. We'll get through this. That was like a year and a half ago.
And then I gave a presentation at OTA, and I felt like I'm just complaining, but then I realized my whole career has always involved signs.
Yeah.
I got into transit by selling bus signs and advertising on buses. And every place I've been, I've had some element, but this was.
I was ready to go get a roto hammer and
I know.
just Sunday night, just start popping them in on the sidewalk and just go from
I
there. It
know.
was so frustrating to watch you go through that
The
process.
reason I bring all this up, I want to put that information because it's valuable information. And now the state, I just got an email yesterday. We're going to give them all of our data. They're going to do some statewide database now, but I want it to be someplace where you know where it is. It's not just, I want it to be available. Not that you're going to have to use it all the time, but there's a lot of lessons learned. So right now what we're doing is we're creating a lessons learned presentation that we will leave. And then also it'll include any of the unfinished things that you want to maybe add to your capital improvement project down the road. So fleet modernization. I was so happy. I actually came across old bus pictures from when I first started. So it truly has, our fleet has truly transformed. From the time when the buses were unmarked, they were pretty unreliable. They sat on the side of them, stretch limo for the rest of us. I was like, yeah, no. And they would smoke and they did, and they were, they looked like I don't know, I'd be rude.
Backstreet Vegas.
They were
bus.
not, yeah.
Something the sheriff would use to transport his guests.
Yeah, yes, that's what I was gonna, thank you, that's all. So as you know, I've talked about this quite a bit, you have to constantly be writing grants for buses, and because it's a 3 to 5 year process from the time you submit a grant till you get the money, till you get the bus, and now, especially since COVID, with all the things that have happened, it seems like, we don't need this, we shouldn't be doing this, but the truth is, it's like an ongoing thing that you constantly have to be aware of. Let's see. The Gilligs, the new Gilligs, that's a picture of one there. They had a very long story because they came from 4 different grants, and it was during the COVID where we had gone through supply chain issues, and some of the grants have been canceled and we had to modify. There was a whole process. You as a board approved several different iterations of grant agreements. But these buses are great buses. And I think long-term, they are truly an investment, a good investment that you've made that will last. They're 12-year, 500,000, but they'll last longer than that if they're taken care of. And we did include some training for some more in-depth training for maintenance staff and operators and everything. And then the technology that I talked about previously is all built into the new buses. So that's nice because we had, I don't know if you recall, but it was when we added hardware to our buses way back. It's a lot more difficult to add it to an existing bus that's already built, but when you build it into the bus, it's better, it works better, and you don't have as many issues. So I think the fleet modernization is a huge accomplishment, and it's also probably your biggest investment. It's worth a lot of money, and it's more than just, oh, cool, I have nice buses now, because really it is all about the customer. I just don't want to quit coming back to that, because they're low floor, ramp access, equal access. So an older person, a young person, anybody can get on that bus. They can walk on it like anybody else. And there's new modern securement device in there that lets the person who has a disability, maybe they're in a wheelchair, they're just have independence. They can do it themselves. They don't have to have a driver get out of the seat and come and secure their wheelchair. There's just a lot of wonderful things about it, including, so it's a better experience for the rider, better ADA accessibility, et cetera. So as you may recall, we've been also working and investing in facility improvements, and I can't believe it, but I think it's been 2 years ago, we actually leased the Durham Lane Building A site. It's currently underway. Tenant improvements are underway. It's almost a 10,000 square foot facility, and it houses TransDev staff. It has place for all of the parking of all of our buses, a place where you can wash the buses. I think it'll meet the needs of Yamaha County Transit for 20 years, really, unless you somehow magically wildly grow larger. But so it brings all the staff together, both the contract staff. And so I think it really is helpful with improving operational coordination and support all the things that have been going on. The transit center, I have a sort of a little vision, and I have some concept drawings done of what the future of the transit center, but we have done some good work at the transit center, the things that really needed to get done. We remodeled the bathrooms. So now they're, you can go in there and hose them off the pressure washer for the public restroom. It has a push button access with a screen, so the dispatchers can then allow the people to get in, but see if in case somebody's in there for 4 hours, something's wrong, you can go check that out. So it's helpful. We have security cameras at the transit center. We redid the inside new carpeting and new paint. And then we just last year had the mural done on the side. There's also next bus information panel on the back. It's not in this picture, but it's right above where those bikes are in that photo. And that just tells all the riders when the next bus will be there. And that's all linked in with the real-time bus information. And I think some of the work that we've done, we did some conceptual drawings for all the things that really think would be good to modify at the transit center or upgrade. And all of that information could be used if in the future you want to write a grant, it would be very helpful to have that information. You could include that. This took longer than I thought also, but a new website. It took several years but it's up and it's very nice and it has so many great features. It helps with trip planning information. It has rider alerts that run across the top. You can see all the things that people tend to go to there on the right. You can get your bus times, find your bus, automate the real-time bus information, the map and everything is there. And there's I think one of the best features is that all the forms now are online forms, fillable forms, and then you can, we can change the schedule. We were in a very old system, old platform, and so you could download a PDF of the schedule. Now, if let's say we needed to change the services, we can change it, go in there and actually change it in the website immediately. It's very fast and easy. So it really helps and it's ADA accessible, and it's, I think it's a great addition to the overall, to our communication, to our customer information program. As you know, and I'm sure you've heard, we aren't the only ones that are facing some challenges with cost. Costs have been rising, labor, fuel, maintenance, insurance. I came across this article from TriMet, they warning about cuts to transit service if the funding package, is overturned, which I think it will be probably, but I don't know. And we have similar problems. Obviously, the key pressures that affect us are labor costs, vehicle maintenance, insurance, fuel, all of those types of things. And I wish I could say we were immune from it, but we are not.
Yeah, and purchase costs too.
Yeah.
How much have those gone up in the last 4 years? I mean, just like those Gilligs that we just
Oh,
got.
all the buses, they have doubled.
Yeah.
We used to be able to get a minivan for 50,000. They're 100. The last one we got was almost $100,000 for a minivan. And then mid sizes you could get them around 120. They're anywhere between 250, 280, and then Gilligs are like 600,
Yeah.
somewhere in that range.
And
650.
no end in sight either. I mean, when we were down there touring that facility,
Mhm.
2,000 bus order from, what was that, LA Transit or something? Just amazing, the buses that are going through there, and they're still behind. Fortunately, they plug you in as,
That's
you don't
right.
have to wait for 2,000 buses to come off the line. You actually get put in.
Yeah.
Very nice of them.
No, they actually treat you very fairly.
Yeah.
I really appreciated their system. It was pretty amazing. And then, unfortunately, our funding remains relatively flat. It has pretty much been the same. And actually, I think STIF formula funds are coming in less than what they had projected. So this year, when we were doing the budget, we had some challenges that are related to that. We still don't have a local funding source. We have gotten a lot of capital and discretionary grants, which has helped us to make all these investments over the years, but they require match dollars and they don't resolve your ongoing operational challenges. As you know, this is something you know too, but I broke it down a little bit different. Obviously, the major cost is the service provider, because our service provider provides all the drivers, dispatchers, maintenance, everything really for the system to run, other than the county administration side. Fuel and lease is, because now we have a lease for the building, and then fuel, who knows what's going to happen with fuel. So that's a bigger percentage than it used to be. The personal services section is basically myself and the 3 staff that are there. And then the M&S is the rest, whether we have contracts, consultants, et cetera.
What's our main consultant for our grant writing?
Actually, I've
Do you
done
do
all
most
the
of it?
grant writing. I really haven't ever hired anybody, I don't think.
But
But
for the
they've
studies and
helped.
that,
They've
who,
helped.
yeah.
Nelson Nygaard did the bus stop project. Waterleaf has been helping with their architect with the Durham project, and then has some small firms. Cogito has been helping with the public outreach. And those are the three primary ones really recently. Yeah. Nelson Nygaard did the plan.
Yeah.
They've been doing the bus stop. They've done a fabulous job, I have to
Yeah.
tell you. I think you have to, they're kind of like the transit planners, really. We don't have a transit planner, and I would say you're probably going to need them. Maybe not as much because we've done a lot of work. So we have a lot of the plans of what we're going to do, but I think it'll be an ongoing need. So there is going to be a need for service adjustments. And I talked about this a little bit, but after preparing the budget, it's even a little more severe than I had hoped. And so we have to align the services with the resources that you're going to have. I think the bottom line is that we're going to, between even now and June, we really have to cut back on some of our general public dial-a-ride. We may have to stop the Saturday service that we have in dial-a-ride. And then the plan is we're doing the public outreach, which I'll touch on in a minute, for the fare structure and the fare policy and going over all the service adjustments. But if there's no new funding, if there's no local funding, I think by January of 2027, you're going to have to get down to like 25,000 hours. That's a significant. We've been at 35,000 hours pretty much, give or take, since I've been here. Right now, our plan was to, the ideal scenario for us would be that one in the middle, the 37,000. Without new funding, I don't see how that's going to happen. We're going to make these immediate reductions and get ourselves really probably closer to, it's not the 28, but between now and June, probably the equivalent of the 32,000 hours, total hours. And what that means on the street for the people is, I think we figured out a way to just, a lot of it they won't really feel. It's a few minor changes on some of the routes that will save us some money. It's mostly going to be the dial-a-ride. And there are people who use our dial-a-ride that are not certified as ADA. So they use it, and they may go to kidney dialysis, but they've never been certified. So what will probably happen is if we have to reduce that, they'll go over to ADA. But the problem with ADA is ADA paratransit is only required within 3/4 of a mile within McMinnville. So we aren't required to do it in Newburgh and other places. Now, I don't want to not serve that. So we're going to do our best to just make the adjustments that we have to make, but keep in mind those.
I think about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer, we had conversations about some of these interconnect routes, the longer ones where the larger counties or cities actually were willing to foot the bill long as we kept those routes in service, but that came off of our hours of service. Is there other opportunities like that out there for?
Well, I don't want to speak too soon, but I happened to stop by and talk to Grand Ron, and he actually mentioned it. And if he's watching, I'm sorry if I shouldn't say this out loud ahead of time, because we haven't had a conversation about it. And we're going to have a meeting, and he talked about possibly helping us more with our Route 22 and possibly this Saturday, because we really wanted to add back Saturday from Grand Ron to King City. The thought was if we went to King City, there's a lot of retired folks. They might want to go to the casino. We could charge the higher fare. That might be a great thing. They seemed very open to that. I went to go ask him about their community grant fund because they have a community grant funding opportunity. So then we got into a conversation. So he said, let's get together and talk. So they right now, with just the portion of 22 that they pay for, we've increased it, and it's up to this year, it'll be $120,000 that they're contributing. So if they were to pay for the entire Route 22, let's say, I'm not saying they will, I'm not making any promises, but if that were to happen, it's around $389,000 a year, is if an entity like that were willing to pay for a route, let's say. That's
So how much does for instance, the Medicaid-funded non-emergent medical transport that's funded, for instance, through the CCO, how much does that take pressure off dial-a-ride? Have you noticed that?
I don't know how to measure that. They tend to go to they tend to go to areas we don't necessarily serve. A few years ago, we had tried to figure out how we could coordinate better, but the places that their clients wanted to go weren't we didn't serve that area, like Salem. We go to Salem, but not like, we don't have a door-to-door type service that goes all the way to Salem.
Okay.
So I don't know the answer to that. I mean, other than I have a list of what they do, but I don't really know how
Thank you.
much it's taking the pressure off. So this, I just already mentioned, we're going to make a few changes. We want to try to, we'll keep the ADA, and then I will come back when we're ready to actually do this. We'll send more details about that. We're nearing the end. I know this, you guys have got to be worn out. So the public outreach for the fair policy and the service adjustments is planned for April. It'll probably go a little bit into May. The consultant is Cogito, and they have developed a really excellent, they call it something else, but I'll call it a stakeholder list for back, because it has businesses and nonprofits, and it'll a huge, much broader reach than what I had developed in the past. And just, I did send a copy, I think, to Bailey, I think, that I have a copy of the engagement plan that looks like this, and I'll have an email to you if you didn't get that.
We have that.
That gives you the details for that. And really what the plan is if you recall, is that you had directed us and Yamaha County Transit Advisory Committee to come up with a fair structure and policy, and that is what they've done. And now we're taking that out. We're taking that out and getting feedback on that. And then when we get done with that, we will bring all that information back, and then you will need to make a decision about what you want to do as far as fares go.
Just one quick question, because knowing the budget situation, and things like that. Is there a reason or what's contributing to having this so far out between now and final implementation? We're
Probably it's more just knowing how long things always take. I
Yeah.
want to say it could happen July 1st. Because I'm imagining we do the outreach, we bring the information to you, you could approve it, let's say, maybe you could even approve it in May. And then we get, probably the biggest question is, we wanted to use this software called UMO for collection. But that could be more time consuming. So I have been looking at an option of, what if we add that, but we do a more manual process? It'll mean we maybe have to print some passes and do some things like that. So I was trying to weigh, is it because I did learn that one of the challenges is that these systems that collect the fares, and they always say, oh, we can do it in 2 weeks. No, they can't. No, nothing happens in 2 weeks. And then they started having issues. Clackamas County was doing it, and they were having issues with the bank taking a long time. So the bank that's connected to the system that collects the fares, they were working on it for literally 4 months.
Yeah.
So I think if we want to move fast so we can start collecting fares, we may need to do that, where we have a more manual version while that is getting set up. So
But
this
there's
is
some
probably based on
implementation
that.
processes that are going to get thrown away instantly, whether it's dealing with cash on site or checks. I see that being a mess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And also the budget implications. So without that information, we've got budgets coming up in a couple of weeks, and it's sort of an unknown and a big unknown.
Correct. And
We
so-
budgeted, I think I budgeted 200,000 for fares, which maybe is, I think if you implement it by August.
Budgeted like a placeholder in the
Mhm.
budget, again, to where you can, within the budget document, it's a placeholder. So if we receive the funds, we're ensured that we've received it and they're fully
Mhm.
appropriated, and you can use them during that fiscal year. So, yeah, I just,
I agree with you. We
question-
need to probably move faster. That's what we need to do. I think the public outreach, we have to do it legally because we'd be changing services and a fare. But we are doing it rather comprehensively. Now, the advantage to that, I think, considering the budget issues we're facing, is maybe we want to at least mention the fact that we may have to, in another year, like by January, could be some fairly significant service adjustments
'Cause I'm
that are
thinking-
beyond what we originally put in, like your engagement plan that you have in front of
Because thinking process wise, it's, because when we stopped doing fares, I don't think there was an official action. We didn't change an ordinance or we didn't do
No.
anything. We just
We
in
sent out a
light
press
of
release
that
because it was
time,
COVID.
Good.
We stopped it during COVID, you
Yeah.
know, because of concerns around cash handling.
Mhm.
and,
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things that came up during that time. So, you know, I get, you know, I 100% agree that, you know, don't want to
Mhm.
give shock where all of a sudden today we're not charging fares and then
Yeah.
tomorrow I catch the bus and,
Right.
oh, I wasn't prepared for this. But
Mhm.
I also just, you know, wear my budget officer hat and knowing the circumstances that we have is waiting until August, September into the new fiscal year before, you know, we start potentially realizing
Right.
some of those revenue gains because there are needs
There are
within
needs.
that budget,
There are.
especially for the escalating operation cost.
Right.
And so I just wanted to put that out and apologies, but I have another appointment, had to leave.
Yeah.
So
Before you go, where are we at with second round interviews?
I'll defer to Kevin.
Yep, okay, thanks.
So we are, second round interviews will be the end of next week.
Okay.
And hopefully have a decision pretty quickly after that. We've got two really fantastic candidates. Either one I think will serve us very well. They're very different candidates. So each one will provide different benefits and need different assistance. But I'm really happy with the way the pool turned out and with these two candidates.
Fantastic.
That's for transit manager. you
Correct.
guys who are- Okay.
Yeah, and as Ken said, definitely not a replacement, but a
No.
successor.
Oh, yeah, I didn't mean that as he was leaving to make it think it was Ken.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we understood.
Thanks for the clarification.
I think that's how we would prefer to exit though.
Thank
That'd be
you.
good.
Good luck, Ken.
Ken, good luck.
I'm almost done, I promise.
All right, thank you.
So unfortunately, even though we got the new proposal and you just adopted the 18-month agreement with First Transit, Transdev, there is going to be more work to be done to get things aligned and adjust service levels a little more than what we had originally thought. So after looking at the budget and all the different things, I really think that the process for doing a request for proposal needs to probably happen very quickly, starting probably July, because that process takes a good, who knows, 3 to 4 months, maybe longer sometimes, because there will need to be changes made by January of 2027. I don't think there's enough funding otherwise. I really think we're gonna have to do something. And it could be that maybe proposals could come in a little less. I'm not really expecting that they'll come in at significantly less, but there's competition. And so, yeah, that's right.
It definitely will be interesting to see what is out there, because I know a year and a half ago now, or 2 years ago, we went through the whole first student to Transdev, and we really haven't gotten our feelers out there to see cost-wise if we're kind of on track with what
Yeah.
is normal. If there even is such a thing anymore.
Everybody I've talked to, it sounds like it's all, it used to be, it was a lot less expensive for agencies and organizations to have a service provider because they saved you a lot of money. But now, because of whatever's going on in this world we live in, everything costs more and labor costs more.
Yeah.
I know it does cost them more. They have their insurance, insurance rates have gone significantly up. They insure all of our buses, they insure all their employee, so it is what it is. So we're rounding down, almost done. You do have a strategic opportunity, I think, I talked to the owner the other day and he is open to the idea of potentially selling that building. And I think there are some funding options out there, but it's worth pursuing that, I think, because I don't know really what your options would be if you don't. The lease payments for that building are around $175,000 a year. So, and when I had talked to him about purchasing it, this is a few years before we moved in, he had a number of around $3.5 million. Now it might be more than that now, but
Not just for the 4 acres we have,
just
for the whole.
just for the 3 acres with the building and everything.
Interesting.
That's actually very inexpensive. If you tried to build something, the last 2 I was involved in, they cost $16 million. I'm not joking. And they had the land. So and then you have to get federal money, which takes 4 years. Now granted, I know that Public Works did an excellent job and they got their building built. You own the land, they got it for under 2. But I don't know what his asking price is. I'm just saying, in my
Something.
head, I would
Yeah.
guess it's somewhere in the 3.5, 4, but I don't know. But it is, I wish it was a little bit bigger, but it's that whole, where all these buses, you can see, it's that kind of a triangle shape. And, I mean, there's a lot of benefits if you owned it to, I think it'll help with, long-term cost, all sorts of some different benefits if you did. But that's one of the decisions that you're going to have to wrestle with as we go forward. This looks really horrible, but I'm just going to be very brief about this. I just kind of for my own benefit, I wanted to look at a timeline of since 2015 and kind of say this didn't all happen overnight. It was deliberate. It was a multi-year transformation. We started really in 2015 to 18, we building the vision. And that included transit development plan, getting into compliance, kind of created a blueprint for the future. Everything we've done since then has really come out of the transit plan or the STIF plan, which the STIF plan is really modeled through this transit plan. So if you go back and look at the transit, I think it's a very good transit plan. It's changed, and it'll be about time to renew it here soon because, can you believe it? It's almost going to be 2028. And then we got early grant funding. We got the fleet fixed up. We got some new mobile radio systems. Then in 18 to 20, we kind of did some of the early investments, more investment in fleet, did the initial, getting the technology started. The STIF came along, dispatch system. We got surveillance camera. Surveillance camera system is really important because it really helps with risk management and lots of things like that. And then the bus graphics project was around in that 18 to 20 timeframe. So we went from these buses that look like the one there in the picture with the white, not very attractive bus to, color, and people knew that what they were getting and probably felt a little more comfortable getting into it. And then COVID, and of course things were great. We were probably collecting close to 280,000 in fares. Pre-COVID, ridership was around 300,000. And then COVID affected so many things that ridership, of course, we couldn't get that. Service adjustments, we had to adjust. We had to cancel service. We had supply chain issues. We had all sorts of things. And that's when we went fare free because we knew we wanted a new fare policy. I had no idea it would take so long. It's been ridiculous, really, in a lot of ways. And then we did the request for proposal back then, and we got the updated contract with First Transit, which was in 2020, you adopted that. And so it was through basically a 7-8 year contract. Then the build out, we really kind of the 21 to 23 was really about rebuilding and implementation, all the smart bus technology, dispatch system, transit center facility planning. We did this pilot project for the mobile technology, which I don't have time to go into, but it's being a lot of other transit agencies are looking at what we did and implementing the same thing. They're doing a very similar approach because there was a big gap in the industry for smaller systems and how you deal with the ongoing support of your maintenance. Then 23 to 25 was getting all those things coming together, bus stop permits and getting buses ordered and moving to Durham and, new website, mobile technology, asset management. I would really like to talk to you about asset management system, but we don't have time, so I won't. And then now I think we are at a crossroads. And the good news is we've got a lot of investment capital is in place. I think ridership's starting to recover. We're getting close. We're about 170,000 right now for the year. So I think we'll go over 220 this fiscal year. But operating costs are increasing. We're going to be doing the public outreach, so soon we'll have the fares, and I think we just don't really have much choice but to probably do an RFP. And then looking at evaluating your facility purchase. So this basically kind of says the same thing. It's just showing you that you're at a crossroads and you've made all these investments. Here's your current reality. And then those are some of the decisions you have to make. And I think really what my final comment would be is that the next phase is not building the system, but sustaining it. And I know that you will, do everything in your power to make that happen and do a good job. And these are a list of all of the kind of upcoming tasks that we need to do. I'm not going to read through them, but because I just sort of mentioned that sort of duplicates my other slide. Um, but we've had a lot of challenges, but I think we've also made a lot of progress. And I think you now have a modern system. And I do look forward to witnessing it from afar and seeing where it goes and where the evolution of Yakima County Transit goes. And I'm confident you'll find good solutions and you'll get a good leader and you'll continue to provide a valuable service to the public. Even if it's different, even if it's limited, you know, I think if the bare minimum, I think if you were I like to call it the quote train, people freak out when I say that, the train model, but like, if you're the core system connecting to the regions, like even if that was all the county could eventually afford, you didn't want to have a local tax or a local fee or anything. If you kept the commuter routes going between the key areas, Salem, Hillsborough, Portland, or Tiger, Grand Ron, that core link, people can get their mother to the hub at the, like on 99. They can't maybe drive them all the way to Salem or all the way to Hillsborough. So at a bare minimum, if that's all that could be done, then the cities could figure out maybe they need more in their city and they could figure out a way to pay for it. Or maybe even some of that comes from STIF. I don't know. But you basically have around $4.6 million in revenue, and you got to stay under that. And if your contract is 3.9, for just, you can't. So that is the real bottom line challenge. But I just want to say thank you, and I'm sorry that was so long.
Thank you.
But I do
Great job.
appreciate everything.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
You don't have a long agenda, I hope, after this.
We have a public hearing coming up, so we'll see. All right. Yep, 5-minute break. Okay. All right, we're back. We are on to item G, which is our consent agenda. I would make a motion to approve. Is there any further discussion?
None?
None? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. H is old business. H1 is consideration of approval of a board order and findings in the matter of planning docket number P10-25, a request to partition an approximately 37-acre property into two parcels of approximately 2.0, parcel number 1, and 35 acres. This partition application is possible due to a Measure 49 final order and home site authorization E122333 approved by the Oregon Department of Land and Conservation and Development. This request involves a transfer of the development rights granted by Measure 49 final order E122333 from tax lot 3210-02400 to the subject lot 2323-02000 to facilitate the clustering of Measure 49 dwellings. Applicant Del Boca Vista LLC. I would make a motion of approval. Is there any further discussion?
None?
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. I1 is other business, consideration of approval to authorize Lindsay Manfrin or designee on behalf of Yamhill County Health and Human Services to submit an application for funding from the Oregon Health Authority in the amount of $10,000 for suicide prevention coalition efforts.
I would move approval.
Motion's been made. Any further discussion?
None.
None? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to J. I'm going to open up the public hearing portion of this meeting at 12:21. And I'm going to call for any abstentions by members of the board.
None?
None.
None?
In a rare
Okay.
case,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
you-
them from
yeah.
15 years
Okay,
ago. or
good.
something.
We're going to ask parties if there's any objections to the jurisdiction of this board to hear the matter before it. Hearing none, pretty light audience. Does any board member need to announce and state on the record the substance of any ex parte contact or any on-site visits?
No.
None.
No, I have none. All right. And then we're going to be reading of the statements by Ken.
Oregon law requires that persons who attend a land use hearing be advised of certain rights and duties before the hearing begins. First, with regard to standards for approval, state law ORS 197.797 requires that we list the applicable substantive criteria that must be met in order for the county to approve the application. The standards will be listed by a county planner in a moment as part of the staff report. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the standards for approval. Second, the raise it or waive it rule. Under Oregon law, any issue that might be raised in an appeal of the county's decision in this matter must be raised before the record of this hearing is closed. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision makers and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeals to the board based on that issue. Third, and this is directed to the applicant, under ORS 197.796, failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval, again, with sufficient specificity to allow the county to respond to the issue, precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And that leads us to the staff report.
Thank you. The subject parcel is approximately 18.8 acres in size. Parcels immediately to the northeast and south are EF80, exclusive farm use. Parcels to the southeast are within the city of McMinnville. The parcel directly to the northwest is zoned Public Works Safety District, and parcels to the west are zoned F80, the Forestry District. The property is currently planted with grass seed, hay, and some commercial tree species. The only development that currently exists on the property is a pole barn that was permitted in 2019 for the storage of farm and forest equipment. Neighboring lands are growing trees, both Christmas trees and commercial timber. Other uses in the area include farming, rural residential, and public utility services.
Thank you. With that, that brings us to the applicant's case. And I'm going to make an assumption that that's Catherine Wright in the audience there. If you could come on up. Sorry for the long meeting today.
Not a problem.
Go ahead and state your name and address for us, please.
Catherine Wright. My address is PO Box 625, McMinnville, Oregon 97128. Okay, so I represent Damien Meskel, who's the owner here. And the materials, the staff report, our application show that we meet the criteria for this zone change. The proposal is to change it to a forestry use because the property has not had any real success doing anything else. And there's surrounding properties do a lot better growing tree species. I don't need to keep you here and take a lot of your time. I think the staff report, it's clear that we meet the criteria and that they support this. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I am not going to drag you through all the criteria and keep you here any longer than necessary. I'm happy to address things on rebuttal if we need to.
Any questions?
None for me.
I have none. Thank
I
you.
have none either.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
See you in rebuttal if we need to. Thank you.
Is there any testimony in support of the application? I didn't get any other comment cards. If you're online, raise your hand. Seeing none, all right. Which brings us to the appellant's case. If you're online and you're an appellant, raise your hand, or if you're in the audience. Seeing none. So we're going to move on to any other testimony in opposition. Seeing none. And then rebuttal, which doesn't look like you'll have any. Okay. And then we're to staff recommendations. Or actually public agency report.
Yeah, there was no comments received.
Okay.
Staff believes that the applicant has addressed the requirements of the relevant comprehensive planning goals, administrative rules, and sections of the Yamhill County zoning ordinance. Our office recommends approval of the zone change. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that. And then I'm going to close out this hearing at 12:26 and we're going to deliberate and I will make a motion of approval based on staff recommendations. Is there any further discussion?
None.
I have none.
None? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
With findings coming back in 3
Three?
weeks.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Does that put us at budget? Or no, a week before?
I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Ken. Thank you guys for sticking around.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to move on to K announcements. Commissioner King.
Meeting with some staff, department heads, and as we've heard here today, there's a lot of the same departments, just budget concerns and some of them have minor changes and some of them a little bit larger. With a few other had a few other conversations around the county and be better partners of our leading industry like hospitality. Weird how much that happened all of this week. Lipstick, heard from the sheriff today. The sheriff gave a presentation on deflection numbers, and he said something and I meant to say while he was here. Those overdoses that he had mentioned, we're at 20 so far, or since September of 25 had 20. And I was trying to think, he said this, and I'm trying to think of other ways, and I can't, but that there is no other outside force of deaths being caused by, car accidents or something, in Yamhill County, right, of fatalities of a year, right? So that stuck with me, and I really appreciate the work that has gone into deflection. And I know it's a low number, but the work that is there is really impressive. And I'm really proud of them for the Lindsay Manfred and the DA for the amount of work they put in and how much they do there, because I do think it is making a difference. I was able to connect with the PCC Government Affairs person working we're gonna try to have a meeting, I think, next week, if not the week after, that she's waiting for some spring breakers to get back to me. Was able to connect with new businesses, a new business starting in Carlton. We'll just go over some of their vision and potential problems. And while I was there, I drove out Meadow Lake and to really look at those bike lanes that we're talking about. And those are really, it's a really narrow road. And so I don't know what, I'd love to have that conversation a little bit further about what that $1 million or so of bike lane money is, our bike infrastructure that we have, what that's going to do.
And pedestrian, it can be pedestrian.
Pedestrian, sure. Yeah, so I'm concerned about what that looks like. And I know that I've had, after last week, I've had a couple of user groups reach out to me and say they're concerned about putting bicycles on Meadow Lake, and that they would never. So something to keep on in the back of our minds as we're having that conversation, to really make sure we're engaging there, and would love to flesh out that plan a little bit more.
Cool.
So.
Yeah. I think there's going to be some great opportunities coming up for do public outreach, community outreach, have kind of the ideas that we put in for replacements into the TSP, and have all those part of an event, a community outreach event in the next few weeks, and looking forward to the input on that.
Yeah. And I'll leave it there.
All right.
All right, thank you, Chair. Met with the Housing Authority Board of Directors and talked about the progress at Stratus Village. The occupancy is moving right along, 54 units in phase 1. The grand opening will be next week on the 31st. Housing Authority is working with Yamhill County HHS to strategize on the lack of emergency housing vouchers that we're faced with. The discussion with HHS Director Lindsay Manfred on the options, and what it's going to look like is cobbling together funds to alleviate the shortage of those vouchers coming from HUD. Visit to the Newburgh Animal Shelter. They're a kenneling partner. They're doing a wonderful job with the limited means and facilities that they have. The Suicide Prevention Coalition met on Friday. We talked about plans for upcoming projects involving youth, students. We discussed various outreach opportunities and the suicide prevention training that was in McMinnville last week, and one coming up on the 23rd in the school district, which will be basically focused on training youth in 3 steps to save lives. And that's the QPR: question, persuade, and refer, and get some kids in the school system who'll be able to do that in a peer-to-peer capacity. The Local Government Advisory Committee, which is LGAC, OHA Director, Behavioral Health Director, were there at our meeting, and Dr. Pinels, who is overseeing the Oregon State Hospital compliance, which continues to be an issue. Preparation for providers regarding the July 1 implementation of the HR1 eligibility requirements for Medicaid. And that's going to be actually just to get people up to speed on what those changes are going to look like, and partnering with OHA, ODHS, and some of the counties regarding the changes to the SNAP benefits, which will happen on July 1. Had the opportunity to meet with Judge Easterday and some other community members yesterday at a lunch meeting, and also got to meet a gentleman who had spent half of his life in prison and quite a number of visits to the Yamhill County Jail. He is now a recovery mentor and works with outreach in the community. And I have to say, it was one of those really encouraging meetings, because we got to hear a story of recovery and somebody who's taken it upon himself to work in our community to help others in that recovery process. So I appreciated the opportunity to do that.
Nice. All right. Last Thursday, we had our Fair Board meeting. I think the main thing coming out of that is coming up, we have ambassador interviews. There's 6 applications, all fantastic applications. So that's going to be tough. And I'm back on the committee again, so looking forward to that. We're going to change our main arena, our main writing arena fairs to be more competitive with the state fair. So there's going to be a slight adjustment there. Friday had fantastic bench dedication for Jim Colbert, who is our ex-Parks Board chair. Fantastic guy, very dedicated to parks. I've never seen anybody more dedicated to a committee in Yamhill County let alone our Parks Committee. So great guy. Huge shout out to all the Parks Board members that did come in person and to say a few words. Zach Geary came from the City Council, McMinnville City Council, gave a few words. All of them were just great stories about Jim's dedication and his back history with just knowing anything about I'll never forget when we had a property that was we had property owners that were looking to dedicate or donate to our parks portfolio, and I remember going out there with Jim and just how almost every single plant we're walking by, he knew the name of it and just nerding out on it. It was just great. He was just a great guy. Anyway, huge shout out to Casey Heesacker for building that bench. If you get a chance, go out to Ed Grenfell, and it's right there as you cross the main Baker Creek, and you'll see it just sitting right there in the lawn, facing the creek, and it's just a great, well built, nice engraved plaque on it in dedication to Jim. So thank you to Casey, who's a Parks Board member. He built that, mounted it all, and had it all power coded, and it's going to last us forever. So anyway, great event. Saturday, my family and I volunteered at the Saturday morning breakfast. If you get a chance to do that, I recommend it. There is a very high bar set for making pancakes, and I am the self-proclaimed best pancake maker so far, so you might want to get in there and try to outdo me. Wednesday morning, I had Willamina Chamber. They're moving forward. They have a community service or community center out there that they've been trying to rehab. The main thing is the bleachers for now. They're still are looking for more grant funding to kind of help out with that, but they do have enough, and they have the permitting almost in place to go ahead and start the reconstruction process. So they will have nice bleachers open for use, hopefully by the 4th of July fireworks that's coming up in Willamina. So that's going to be great. Yeah, legendary, absolutely. And then I got some just community announcements going on. We have Yamhill Carlton FFA State Convention, their first in state agriculture marketing plan, and Tucker Van Dyke was first in the state for job interview. They'll all be heading to nationals in the fall again. Tucker Van Dyke is also the new FFA state secretary, so congratulations to him on that. Chloe Bingman from Amity, who, if you recognize, she used to be one of our fair ambassadors. She is the title runner-up for Oregon Dairy Princess. So that's going to be fantastic. Amity Daffodil Festival is coming up on Saturday. My oldest will be out there playing violin from 12 to 2, so keep an eye out for her. The Oregon Memorial Traveling Wall. It's a replica of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. It'll be set up in McMinnville from March 27th to the 29th. The American Legion Post 21 is hosting the wall's visit. Members of the public can see the outdoor display at the Evergreen Aviation Museum. There is a short program planned for 11 a.m. on Saturday, the 28th. I got a MAC Fire Board meeting tonight, so I'll update you next week on that. Chat with the chair next Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Government Services Building. There is a Planning Commission hearing next Thursday at 7 p.m. in this room. And then Saturday is Gaston FFA's dinner auction. It's 6 p.m. at the Carpenter Creek Winery in Forest Grove. The reason I bring this one up is this FFA is now going to be at the Yamhill County Fair. So it's a new FFA group coming in.
It's just outside of the Forest Grove.
Carpenter Creek.
Okay.
Yep, Carpenter Creek Winery is in Forest Grove, and that's where they're going to have their auction and dinner on Saturday night. Anyway, so brand new FFA chapter coming into the Yamhill County Fair. I think that's super exciting. A little bit smaller group. That's why we were able to bring them in, because we are busting at the seams, but I think it's going to be a great addition for our area. So with that, I'm going to close this out unless there's anything further for the good of the order.